You're live.
Welcome to Slow News Day Live. My name is Steve Poikinen. I'm here in beautiful Boulder Creek, California. I am joined by my better than your co-host, Glory Jones. What's happening, Glory?
I'm so glad you said beautiful to describe your environment. That makes me happy that it's a
More
good day.
often than not, it is. I mean, it's the redwood forest. If you look hard enough, or you take the right drugs, you can see Ewoks. Like, it's beautiful here. It really is. It's also in California, which makes it one of the hardest places on the planet to live. But that's not what we're here to talk about. Joining us on the show once again, just one of my favorite people to talk to, and incredibly brilliant, insightful political commentator, writer, and just all around wonderful human being, Garland Nixon. Welcome back. How you doing, sir?
Great. Thanks for having me back on.
I realized this morning just how time has seemed to take on an entirely new meaning in the post-Rona world, because you called me. I was in Colorado. It was like second weekend of December, to tell me about your experience as election observer in Venezuela.
Mm-hmm.
And that seemed, this morning when I was making coffee, like a goddamn year and a half ago.
Yeah.
Like, I've been, because I'm like, I've been wanting to get Garland on the show like forever, since we had that. That was really only December. Wow.
And I tend to think part of this is kind of the news cycle now, because our news is like, okay, here's the explosive world-changing thing, whatever it is this week. It's the impeachment of Trump or whatever. It's usually something related to Trump, right? And so it's like, this is the big story of the year. And that goes on for 5, 6, 7 days. And then as soon as that, there's like no normal news anymore. It's like, this is the biggest world-changing event that has ever occurred, and we got to focus on that. And so it's like everybody's attention jumps from whatever we are told is the latest world-changing event to the next world-changing event. And I tend to think of it, part of it, of course, is the empire doing its thing, and part of it is the media, like, not being able to ever say we're going to report the news, just having to say we gotta get as many eyes on us as we can. We got to sell as much advertising money, so everything we sell is clickbait. Everything that we sell is the world-changing event, and it causes our view of the world. Like, I mean, if 10 world-changing events have happened, like, that should take 10 years. Now it takes 10 days.
There was a meme going around, like, even a couple of years ago, when I think it was whatever the pandemic, the virus was that was supposed to kill us before coronavirus in like 2018. Ebola. And the meme was like, okay, well, this is like the 9th apocalypse I've survived the last decade, so I think I'm gonna be okay. I'm gonna ride this one out. If all we're given is tragedy porn and forever wars and division, how are we going to be communicating with each other even by the end of the year? How do you see this going? In terms of just interpersonal communication, because if we're still unable to see each other in person, if we're still, like, locked down in our houses, and probably by June, we'll still be waiting for the Democrats to pass a coronavirus relief check. And all we're fed through our media is world-changing event or tragedy or horror or, more war. Like,
the next 9/11.
How are we even going to be able to communicate with each other broadly, like, as a general population, not us here on this show, but just even in 6 months? I don't know if you've noticed the deterioration in communication between person to person, like, over the last year of these lockdowns, but it's obvious and frightening to me.
Yeah, it is. And one of the dynamics that has occurred here is now it's like the blob, the government, the social media, the parties, whatever, they control and curate all of the information that you access. Normally, if you were going to work, if you were going to hang out in a bar with friends or whatever, you would have discussions with people, and there would be some dissent. There would be some people disagreeing with you, and you'd hear, at least, while they can control what you get online, person to person, you would have these discussions. I noticed last year when I was in London, the kind of narratives that I got, whether it was on the BBC or, Sky News, or they were traditional, like watching Fox, MSNBC, or CNN here. But when I went to the coffee shops and the pubs and talked to people, it was surprising how knowledgeable people were there of what was really going on. Not quite nearly like it is here. People seem even blinder when you talk to them personally, but they could have interpersonal conversations. And so now what you get online is, if they don't like what somebody's saying, they block them, they deplatform them, whatever. You go to wherever for so-called news, and it's all propaganda. So it to me, this also gives the ruling elite class a tighter grip on people, a better conversation on control, a better ability to control the narrative, to control our conversations and everything that goes in and out. And I think they really like this. They'd love to find a way to keep it going. You see advertisements now that basically say, stay away from your friends and family, stay away from everybody, just kind of stay home, keep the door shut, and watch the screen, which I understand from a health advisory perspective where that's coming from, but I also understand from a propaganda and control perspective where it's coming from, because now we don't have two parties anymore. We have two brainwashed cults, in my opinion.
Well, I mean, that's where, that's what these next 4 years are going to be like. It's going to be this era of gatekeeping, because not only do you have the censorship coming from the government and the surveillance state, you also have people who are going to take it in their own hands to just eat up all of these narratives about controlling misinformation and try to discourage people from reading anything that contradicts the official narrative. So they're going to go and white knight on behalf of the national security state. And it's going to be insufferable to have to deal with that on top of all the censorship that's happening, because you're going to have all these clashing narratives of controlling misinformation and you're QAnon because I don't agree with you, and all kinds of crap like that.
Yeah. It's interesting. Just the term you used, I wrote down when you were talking, I just wrote down the word misinformation so I could remember to comment on that. Misinformation, disinformation. Here's what's interesting. Those are abstract terms. What do they even mean? Apparently what they mean depends on who they're coming from. To me, misinformation or disinformation means pushing information that is inaccurate. See, the question, we don't even talk about, the discussion about misinformation, disinformation in the context of the social media, in the context of the national security state. You notice what they don't talk about. Inaccurate information. They'll say you're pushing conspiracy theories, not whether or not the conspiracy theory could be an accurate or an inaccurate one. There is no discussion of accuracy, because we're living in an empire that's founded on lies, all lies. Our entire foreign policy is founded on lies. A lot of our culture, / religion here in America is founded on lies. So the discussion is about misinformation or disinformation, which really only means this. The mainstream narrative is out there. It's put forth by the ruling elite. Disinformation or misinformation is simply things that push against the mainstream narrative. Nothing else. So we don't even discuss what the word misinformation or disinformation means. No definitions, no discussions of accuracy. It's just misinformation. Well, what is that? I'll tell you when I see it. Oh, wait a minute. You just said that that Assad didn't attack his people with it. There's evidence that he didn't attack his people with chemical weapons. That's misinformation or disinformation. It's, arbitrarily chosen by the people who want to continue to lie to us and to have us believe those lies.
Yeah, no, 100%. Anything that fits outside of an echo chamber pretty much is misinformation. Anything that will present, hard evidence or accurate information going against the official narrative. Like Vanessa Beeley, who literally interviews Syrians on the ground, gets called a conspiracy theorist by Wikipedia because she just so happened to expose the white helmets, which are backed by the UN and by all Western imperialist powers, saying something like, oh, Venezuela has better elections than America based off the fact that they do, and the fact that they have all kinds of international observers such as yourself and better and more secure systems of voter verification. Then that is misinformation or conspiracy, because it goes against the prominent narrative put forth by Western imperialists who want to take everything from Venezuela.
Right. And even, when you said Wikipedia, every thing on the internet is used as a tool of propaganda. Wikipedia, if you look at it, there was a time when Wikipedia, people would go in and put information in there based on who or what the person's background, life, etc. Now, Wikipedia is nothing but a tool of propaganda. If you look for Max Blumenthal, or if you look for someone that pushes back, particularly against imperialism, against war, you go to Wikipedia, they'll be chewed to pieces, guaranteed. They will be, attacked. They will be, dismembered on Wikipedia. That's guaranteed. So what is Wikipedia if I look at it and it's NATO / the US government, the UK empire, EU, and that basically the only thing I'm going to get from Wikipedia is the perspective of the neoconservatives, the neoliberals, the ruling elite class. That's all we're going to get there. And they're just bit by bit transforming the entire internet, everything that they have power to control. And ultimately, what does that create? To me, what it's going to create is this. Russia's going to have their own internal internet. China's going to have their own internal internet. The US is going to have their own internal internet. And the countries outside will be able to choose which of the internet, there'll be 3 to 4 internets that are separate. And the countries on the outside will be free to choose which ones that they want to access or to utilize or to have their own. We're balkanizing the internet simply because the national security states recognize the internet for the freedom of information and the threat of the free flow of information and the threat from that free flow of information that's there. And they bit by bit, they're trying to close everything down, and it's going to end up all broken up, which is, maybe that's good. I don't know. But I think that's just where we're going to be.
I believe that decentralization of the internet is a good thing. I do. Overall, I don't believe that the individual world governments should hold the reins on that decentralization. And I don't even know if you can do that with the internet without, specifically denying power to certain locations. Mm-hmm. Because we've got VPNs, we've got a number of different ways where we can, go outside of using specific, our specific location based addresses. So I think once the genie came out of the bottle with the internet, there's only one way to put it back in, mm-hmm. and that's to deny it to everybody. And I think that as powerful a communications tool as it is for good and ill, that's not going to, that when that happens, it'll be pretty final, like in the sense where Einstein said, I don't know what weapons World War III will be fought with, but I know that World War IV will be fought with sticks. In that sense, certainly. But I was just watching your coverage of Trump's impeachment before we went live, and we haven't talked about this at all. I barely watched the actual hearings. I caught some of the wrap up, but it was incredibly wild to me that at a time where we've got like actual problems, what our government decides to focus on is a show trial designed to make some people's feelings get tickled. And that's it. And maybe not have to run against Donald Trump in 2024. Like that was the one of the big marketable reasons for holding this impeachment, is so that a 74 or 76-year-old man who by the time 2024 rolls around will be pushing 80, so that he won't run for president. And people just accepted this and we're like, yeah, we're going to glue ourselves to the TV for this. And that amazes me.
Yeah, two things. Number one, I think you could just call it a show and forget the trial part. It's not really a trial. I have spent a lot of time in my life, reviewing cases and preparing cases for trial and preventing, and presenting cases in the court. And never did I do one. And, was I ever involved in a case and spent a lot of time, prepping for the trial and did the trial when I knew the outcome. If you know the outcome, then generally what you're going to do, almost always what you're going to get is a plea before, a plea bargain, because everybody knows the outcome. So this wasn't a trial. It couldn't be a trial, because if it was a trial, that would mean there was a possibility that it could go one way or the other. Everybody knew. So keeping in mind that the Democrats didn't prepare a trial case because they knew the outcome. They prepared a show. And part of that is, let me give you a perfect example. And I talked about this. There are so many people out here who will tell you they think Trump should have been found guilty. They think Trump should have been found innocent. And here's what I would ask them. Did you read the articles of impeachment? Did you read the January 6th speech that the impeachment referred to? How in the world can you say that someone should be found guilty or not guilty if you don't even know what their charges were? You don't even know the specific charges. I was talking to somebody the other day, and I said, look, you may have robbed a bank, and I'm sitting on a jury, but they charge you with loitering. Innocent. Right. So when I read, there are instances, there are things they probably could have charged that possibly one may have or said, you could argue that he's guilty, but what they specifically argued, there's no way in the world as an unbiased person that I could look at that and say, based on Donald Trump saying we have to fight like hell or we're going to lose that or we won't have a country anymore, that I can say that specific sentence is incitement to violence. If that's the case, when Bernie says we need a revolution, when I say we got to fight like hell or we won't get Medicare for all, we got to stand up against, guess what? I have opened the door for anyone who says that to face some level of prosecution. I have set a precedent that when any politician that I like, Nina Turner, says we got to fight like hell or we won't get such and such, guess what? She's now inciting to violence. It's a very dangerous thing when we start infringing upon our First Amendment rights. To me, that's protected speech. But the problem is we have two brainwashed cults. So the brainwashed blue cult doesn't stop to think whether or not the speech is protected. They haven't even read the charges, much less his speech. They know nothing about it. All they know is this: I hate Trump. Trump is charged with something, which means Trump is guilty. I don't need to know it. He's Trump. He's guilty. Just give me any allegation. You could say to them, Trump is guilty of mopery on the high seas. They don't know what mopery on the high seas is, but they know they hate Trump. So he's got to be guilty. That's what you're dealing with here. So knowing that, the Democrats put together a show. Oh, whatever. Yeah, Trump, what did he do? Exposed himself to a blind person. Guilty. It's absurd to me. So I watched the show. I haven't seen a trial, though.
My goodness. So I was there. I was on the ground for that speech. We were at the like choke point that they had. The Washington Monuments right here, the ellipsis right here, the street goes through. We were at the choke point where they had like a 7-foot high pile of backpacks and then all the cattle fencing that looped around to where they roped everybody in for the speech, and we were listening to it, and everybody that we were talking to on the ground there, they were there because they were really gullible Americans who believed that free assembly existed and that they could assemble to raise their voice in protest over what they felt was a illegally or fraudulently conducted election. I'm pretty sure that that's okay. I'm pretty sure that as of that day, there was no law against that. Donald Trump basically read off what it said on the flyer that everybody had been able to see for a month or 6 weeks, just gave the directions that were on the flyer. Now we're going to march, what do you say, like peacefully and patriotically or something like that. They'd put a little fairy dust on it, for the flag wavers. And he threw Mike Pence under the bus in the speech, and then he split. That's not an incitement to violence or revolution. It's not a call to overthrow the government. And I would be really surprised if more than a couple dozen people on the ground there like really wanted to go smash some shit, Like I guarantee there were at least 3 dozen people that were there specifically hoping they could smash some shit. But there were 300,000 people there. You can't call all 300,000 people domestic terrorists because a handful of people were bad actors, some of whom we now know were either in the current or former employ of the FBI.
Well, I mean, in January 6th, or, the new 9/11 aside, I am more than down to hogtie Trump and drag him overseas to the ICC to have him tried for war crimes in Syria, in Venezuela, in Iran, and for AFRICOM and all over the world. But the fact of the matter is people don't care about that. They're wanting to throw fire on him for all this partisan bullshit. And it's not going to get anywhere because you're not getting to the actual tangible crimes he committed. Illegal missile strikes in Syria, starving sanctions on Iran and Cuba and Venezuela, more illegal looting in Syria, just straight up occupying their oil fields and being so brazen about the fact that we were just violating international law. There are a lot of real crimes that you can try Trump for, and he should be tried for. But guess what? That means that we have to try all of our other leaders for those same exact crimes. And I mean, I'm down for that, but I'm not down for this partisan show.
Yeah, and if you see, one of the things I brought up was the actual charges itself. They said that they for reference, they put in the conversation that he had with the Georgia AG, and that he'd been putting out false information regarding the, claiming that the election was fraudulent when it wasn't fraudulent. And the first thing I thought about was this: man, you guys went for 4 years pushing a fake Russiagate. So if you're upset because that someone is charging, it rings hollow for the Democratic Party to argue that they've got an issue with somebody pushing fraudulent arguments that the election was not fair, was not honest, and should be disregarded. They did it for 4 years. In fact, they went so far as to try to set up the electors before the electors voted after the state certified them. John Brennan tried to set up an appointment or a meeting so that he could present all of his Russiagate bullcrap to the electors to try to get them to install Hillary instead of Trump. So all the things that they're accusing of Trump of, they've done pretty much exactly the same. So when they argue, okay, well, Trump's doing what we did, well, I can't convict him for doing what you did, number one. And number two, when you argue that he said fight like hell, or we won't have a country anymore, there's no way I see you get from that to somebody was involved in violence after somebody saying that is a poor precedent. And see, here is the thing: there's something they could have went after him for. It's called the last clear chance doctrine. It has to do with contributory negligence. Under the last clear chance, it's almost like a Good Samaritan kind of thing, a duty to act. You can argue that, you saw something going on, something that was really bad, and you had somewhat of a duty to act, right? To prevent terrible things. So they could have argued under the last clear chance doctrine that Donald Trump, even though what he said may not have caused them to do it, he said that as a result, this happened. He was still the president, so he had a duty to do something to try to stop it. He didn't do anything to try to stop it. Therefore, he has contributory negligence, recklessness at least. And and while that wouldn't be criminal, right, per se, impeachment is not a criminal procedure. It's an administrative, it's a political procedure, right? The standards of evidence and everything are relaxed. So they could have used the clear chance doctrine and went after him for that, tried to prove that he did that. Sure, they wouldn't have won, but that would have at least been a valid legal principle. What they went after was some guy said, we got to fight like hell or we won't have a country anymore. That is the crime. Well, we can't, we can't possibly live in a country, to me, where that's true. But keeping in mind the other part of it, they knew all along that whatever they charged him with wasn't going to stick. So they had to make it the best show that they could make it. So in charging him, they were able to just show a bunch of irrelevant things. Here's a video of all of the things that happened on Capitol Hill. Well, so what? Terrible things happened on Capitol Hill. Everybody could have been massacred on Capitol Hill, but you have to prove that he was responsible for it. So you're saying the crime, as it were, the offense was inciting the riot, but you're only going to show evidence of the riot. That doesn't mean that he did it, but they don't care. That's why it was all a show. So now they can scare the living crap out of people and push the real deal, their domestic terrorism laws. So now they can stop people like us who want to say exactly what our dear compadre just said, which is, what about Assange? What about the things you're doing to countries illegally around the world, and the international war crimes by the U.S.? Now we're domestic terrorists if we bring those things up, and we end up, with a free orange jumpsuit and a black hood over our heads.
When we left the Capitol on the 6th, we were on the side that was facing the Washington Monument. We were around on the side that was facing the Supreme Court, where the window got busted out or any of that. We were on the opposite side. When we left, there were like 300 people chanting, "We love people." Not any specific kind of people, just people. That's what this is after they recited the Pledge of Allegiance. And like, I guarantee you that never made the news. I guarantee you that never made the impeachment trial. I guarantee you that was not a part of their narrative. And yet it happened. We have it on tape. Like, I mean, it went down. You're right, though. The whole thing is designed to make sure that we have domestic terrorism laws, to make sure that we can criminalize protests going forward, to make sure that dissenting opinion, no matter what it is or from what corner of political ideation it's coming from, it is codified illegal wrongthink. Like, that's flat the fuck out where we're headed. We already have pre-crime. That division of the Department of Justice went live at the beginning of the year. The pre-crime division that Bill Barr orchestrated, set up, and now Biden's incoming DOJ will run with, just as he will run with the prosecution of Julian Assange. Yeah, I know we talked about this earlier in the week, Garland, but I mean, were you surprised about this? Is anything that Biden's DOJ, or I guess interim or acting DOJ, has said regarding Julian Assange, did that come like that put you off at all, or were you expecting this from the Biden administration too?
Yeah, because I mean, in reality, when I see, when it comes to the empire, this is part of the empire thing. And when I see the empire, I understand that, the person who happens to be sitting, in the driver's seat of an autonomous vehicle ain't driving it. It's kind of like when I was a kid. I'm going to date myself, but when I was a kid, they used to have these little plastic steering wheels, right? And you sit next to your dad. My dad had a pickup truck. It had a plastic steering wheel, like a Fisher Price thing. It had a forward and reverse, right? And so when my dad turned right, I turned my little plastic steering wheel to the right. When he hit the brakes, I pushed the little brake button and it would squeak. It looked like I was driving a car. I thought I was driving a car, but I wasn't driving a car. That's the president to me. They give him a plastic steering wheel. So the idea that he's going to turn this plastic steering wheel and it's going to do anything different, no, it is not.
Please, somebody clip that out. Somebody clip that out. Come on, please clip that out.
I love Fisher Price toys too. I love that analogy so much.
Beautiful, but it is. No, that's honestly probably the most perfect way that I've heard that described, and I am going to steal it. I will give you credit.
Yeah,
I will credit you for it, but I'm going to steal that. And we have on that getting clipped out too. Our star, our wonderful occasional like Johnny on the spot will clip this out, who also does the lion's share of Whitney Webb scheduling and booking and shit like that. Just Star's busy, man. I'm really glad that somehow she found this show and is part of the team. This is a weird world that we occupy in this like independent media sphere, and I know it's been a couple of months, but if you don't mind, I would like you to kind of reiterate some of your experiences in Venezuela at the beginning of December, because that was such a fascinating show to me. And I was standing in the middle of Boulder, Colorado. It was like 20 degrees. It was fucking freezing, and I was trying really hard to listen as my hand was going numb. And like at one point, because I pace when I walk on the phone, I'd like set my coffee down, and by the time that I'd realized where my coffee went, it was like damn near frozen over. So back at the beginning of the December, you went with the Code Pink delegation down to Venezuela. You spent a week observing the elections. I definitely want to hear about that, but I also, for the audience's sake, would like you to talk about what happened when you were trying to leave the country.
Yeah, well, when we were trying to leave, we had a plane. We had our group of election observers had our own plane, and we were at the Caracas airport. And the first plane left heading for Santo Domingo. When our plane was about to leave, we were told we had to wait. Here's the bottom line. The U.S. and the Ivan Duque, which is the far right wing president of Colombia, also a pretty much CIA puppet. They, just before our plane went to take off, they closed the airspace. 2-hour plane. They didn't close the airspace internationally, closed it to our plane. And eventually, we ended up having to fly around it. But, it was kind of scary. We were like, well, this is not good. I mean, and if we fly around it, you're thinking, well, are they just going to shoot our plane down and just say, well, they had some engine trouble over the sea and plunged into the sea. So what we did, it was interesting. VJ Prashad was on the plane, and he's like, look, everybody immediately take to Twitter and tweet at Ivan Duque, tweet at the UN, tweet at everyone. We tweeted. I tweeted over to Max Blumenthal and Anya, and they were going into a press conference with the People's Dispatch with Nicolas Maduro, and they went in and they asked him a question about it. He didn't know, brought it to his attention. He made a statement about it. And the idea was look, if it's all on the internet, everybody knows that this plane is kind of under siege by the CIA and the Colombia. They can't just shoot us down, because then it'll be like, wait a minute, it's all over the internet that you guys are out to get these planes, and then suddenly there's an accident. So it probably kept us alive. I'm thinking, who knows what? But trust me, when you're at 40,000 feet, you're looking down constantly, waiting for the trail of a missile to come up and take you out in an instance like that. It was pretty scary.
I could never imagine being in that scenario. I mean, it's like to some degree you're used to it, but it's also mind-blowing, the audacity of imperialists and the empire, that you can even consider that as an election observer, you can get shot down from your plane. Like, because obviously that's a situation that not a lot of people are going to be with, so it's hard to grapple with, but it just goes to show the pure audacity of the empire and the lengths that they will go to protect and guard their narrative, to prevent any kind of autonomy and credit being given to countries in the global south, to Black and brown people across the world. And just wow.
What's the excuse from the Colombian government, from the Bolivian government, as to why you were denied airspace? Did you ever get any?
Nah, they never said
from
anything.
them at all.
Nothing. No, it's just that we were doing things they don't like. They are an extension of our intelligence agencies. So that's just what they do. I tell you one thing about going to Venezuela. I realized something. Going to the global south, dealing with a country that is under severe sanctions. Here's what you realize. This is what I've come to realize. It's so blatantly obvious. You have a lot of Americans will say, yeah, what we did to the Native Americans, that will acknowledge it. Yeah, that was wrong. And we used, we just completely, we said things like manifest destiny, and it continued to expand westward and basically expand. No, we didn't. We continued to take their land and drive them off their land. And when they saw us, they were just like, we'll share, whatever. Nah, we were like, nope. We ain't no sharing here. It's ours now. You do what you're told to be killed, or or both. But bottom line is, When you go to Central and South America and start getting around and talking to the people and looking at the history, you realize something that never stopped. It didn't stop at the West Coast. That is exactly what we're doing. Exactly what the United States did to the Native Americans, to the native. That's what these people are. This is the content of Central America, South America. These people are Native Americans. And the U.S. is still trying to expand and saying, well, there are a lot of you. We can't kill you all. But what we can do is, while you're here, we can oppress you and take all of your stuff. And that's all we're doing in Venezuela. We're trying to take their oil. I mean, we're just telling all kinds of lies. Oh, Nicolas Maduro's or whatever, you know, the guy, well, how do you continue to win? How does his party get 67% of the votes if he's an installed dictator? It's absurd. But bottom line, they got oil. We want oil. That's all it is about. And the empire will tell any lies. Here's what I'll finish up by saying this. The U.S. is an empire. And here's what I say. The U.S. empire, or any empires period, only see two types of countries. These are the only two types of countries. Countries that you have already conquered and countries that you intend to conquer. Every country in the world, through the eyes of the view of America, falls in those two categories. And right now, Venezuela, we haven't conquered them. And how can you tell which countries we've conquered? We got bases in them. Here's the bottom line. People are like, are we going to leave Afghanistan? We still got bases in Japan. Germany, 1945. The idea that we've been there for 20 years. We've been there since 1945. We ain't leaving. Korea, how about that? Any bases? No, once the U.S., the Philippines, once the empire absorbs another, conquers another land, it puts bases there to defend. Now, the people there may think they're, quote, allies. They ain't allies. They are a conquered land who is to do what they're told. Ask Germany. Germany right now is trying to do this Nord Stream 2 with Russia. The U.S. is saying you can't do it, and we will sanction you. Well, you don't do that to allies. You do that to vassal states, to inferiors. So what the U.S. is now saying to Germany is, you thought you were an independent nation and you could do whatever you want. No, that's not. You are a conquered nation, and the empire that has conquered you will now tell you who you can and can't do business with. That's it. So Americans think this is a nation. Oh, why can't our nation afford Medicare for all? Nations can afford Medicare for all. Empires can't, because empires have 1,000 bases and military and ships all over the world. Our money goes to sustain the empire. So no, we can't afford any of that stuff. We could if we were a nation, but we ain't. We're an empire, and the empire is just trying to take over more countries right now.
Damn. I mean, I hope the people out there in internet's land are absorbing all of that. I hope that it does reach the ears of like the progressives and Rose Twitter, like the Kyle Kalinske crowd, because you can't vote your way out of an empire. That's not how that works. Putting a couple of new parts on a machine designed to kill you prolongs the life of that machine. That's what that does. And we can't. I don't know what the solutions to the world's problems are. I don't. But I know that we can't even talk about them like grown-ups and humans until we stop making the same mistakes. And one of those mistakes is supporting an empire, supporting a system that is fundamentally structured to kill and absorb. We're dealing with like a flesh and blood equivalent of the Borg, and that's not even hyperbole. It's just the closest thing I can think of to compare it to.
Well, I got another way I like to put it, and that is for people who are like, yes, we're going to stop police violence and we're going to stop, this or that. Okay, and here's what I say. Look, you got a guy, right? This guy goes to the bar, he gets a couple drinks, and he gets in a fight. Then when he leaves the bar, he's walking up the street, he gets in an argument with some guy, he gets in a fight. Then he's driving home and he has a road rage incident. He gets out, he gets in a fight. Everybody this guy talks to, he gets in a fight. What do you think he's going to do when he gets home? He's going to beat the crap out of his wife and kids. Why? Because he has an issue with violence. He is a violent human being. He ain't going to be violent in the street and come home and be a dove. He ain't going to be a dove at home. So the United States goes around the world blowing things up, murdering and slaughtering people, right? Does anyone believe that you can stop this murderous, this vicious psychopath, that you can say that this guy doesn't want to, his wife says, I'm leaving you if you don't stop. So, okay, he goes to a therapist. Is the therapist going to say, you know, you can keep fighting in the bars in the street and all that stuff, as long as you're a nice guy when you come home? They know that that's incongruent. It can't, it's absurd before you even start to even have that discussion, that you're going to take some guy who's psychopathic with a history of violence and train him, that you're going to train a dog, well, only bite when you're here and not there. They're a dog, they're going to bite. That's what this guy's going to do. So the idea that you can take a vicious, rapacious, murderous, thieving empire that goes around the world and mostly preys on brown nations, oppresses them, starves them, and steals their resources, but you're going to somehow train them, you're going to turn your head on that. Okay, yeah, you can go around the world and be the most vicious fiend in the world, but when you come home, we want you to be the nice to the people here. And the idea that that is even, you know, a thought, that is even a consideration that you could have success is absurd. But the reality is this: so many people in the empire, and even a lot of activists, are trained. Look, there's a lot of things you can go against in the society. You can go against racism, you can go against a lot of things, but you can't go against the empire. If you go against the empire will put its boot and its entire weight on your back. So these are so-called activists, but they know where the line is. They know that they can't stand up and say, hey, Venezuela, those Knight Foundation, Ford Foundation, all these foundation grants that they're getting to fight for criminal justice reform, all that crap's going to dry up. So they are perfectly willing to continue a feckless, wasteful fight, a so-called fight against internal racism or violence or discrimination by the government. And they're willing to allow the government to go around the world and blow everybody up and kill them. But, you know, for a lot of them, I think it's either ignorance or, look, you know what? I got a 501c3. I'm making pretty good money. We're running it. I'm busy. I feel good about myself. Sure, I'm not having any effect, but I ain't going to worry about why, because I'm doing my thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
For a moment about this, the 501c3s, the sort
You're
of
really good at metaphors, by the way, Garland. I just had to say that.
Crushing it. The content you fuckers crave. It is.
Must be all the weed. That's what it is. It's all of the weed. It puts you on another level. I think that's what it is.
I've got to smoke a joint with you, Garland, Nixon. I really. Yeah, we're coming back to DC in March. Action for Assange's. We've got
this time we got to get together. I was really had a lot of crap going on last
time. I mean, my God, I don't. Yeah, I operate on like an hour and a half of sleep, maybe a day when I'm in DC, and I don't know where I'm at like 99% of the time. But I smoke like 8 times more weed in DC than I do here. I don't smoke a lot here in California. I really don't. And I'm just way too fucking busy. But in DC, there's so much concentrated evil that I feel like I have to sort of balance that out a bit. And as a result, I tend to smoke a bit more. But Action for Assange is going back. The March 17th and 18th, there was a hashtag that started last year, Clovers for Assange, and it took off. It became a way for WikiLeaks supporters around the world to identify each other. The Clover emoji is attached to a lot of people's Twitter handles now. So we're going to take that into 3 dimensions, and I am getting a like counterculture 1960s era performance art protest troupe called Bread and Puppet out of the Vermont hills to come down and do some pretty wild shit. So it's going to be a lot of fun. I did drop the link to the GoFundMe in the chat just a minute ago. If you guys can donate to that, that'd be great. If you can't, please share the link, because that shit really does help. And with that horrifying part done, God, I hate this shit so much. I really do. Like I do. Money's gross. It's so dirty. It is. And I don't mean like even the physical, came out of a stripper's ass crack dirty. I mean like the whole concept of it is just filthy. And I can't wait until we all collectively ascend and we don't need cash anymore. But until that day, if you can donate, that'd be great. If you can't, please share the link. uh, there have been so many wild revelations just in the 6 weeks that 2021 has been a year, and two of them that I keep coming back to should have been obvious to everyone, but for some reason keep coming as a shock, and that's Enrique Tarrio and the gentleman involved in the Oath Keepers all have massive connections or are currently like assets of the federal government. And Garland, at what point do people stop realizing or calling this thing like an insurrection or a takeover and start looking at it like this is probably a federal operation?
Well, you remember the guy, what was the gay club shooting in, I believe it was either Tampa or Orlando. And that guy's father was a FBI assailant. I mean, assailant, FBI informant. Do you remember the Manchester bombing and the people that were involved there had been like working for the British government? They were like taken over to Libya or whatever, Syria brought back. It's like, is it a coincidence that we keep finding people involved in these incidents who have like first person connections to the intelligence community? It's not like they're their brothers, fathers, friends. But no, it's like them or like an immediate relative was actually an informant, you know? And then we see these instances like people or a bunch of guys are getting together and the FBI will come in. Hey, wouldn't you like to blow up such and such? And they're like, well, look, in fact, we can get you the bomb. And they're like, well, I don't know. And then, you know, it's we get, you know, a news flash, a terrorist cell broken up when it was just like a bunch of guys smoking weed and they came in and like gave them an idea. That's why, you know, every time I see something about they're breaking up some terrorist cell or some group of people that are up to no good, I wonder how much of it is real and how much it is the federal government needing some scalps and sending people in to try to you know, make these things even scarier and try to expose them. I don't doubt that there was a significant level of organic activity going on there. You know what I mean? But even something as small as this, just think about this. The Capitol building, all the things that happened there, cameras everywhere, right? Everything that was going on inside and outside of the Capitol was filmed, right? Ask yourself why the particular bits of film that you've seen, like a 20 seconds or 30 seconds of like the one guy, the black cop who was backing up and they kept coming up after him, particular things that you saw, ask yourself of all the literally many thousands of hours of film, because I mean, every one of those cameras is filming individually, right?
Yeah.
So of all of those cameras, all of those angles, you ask yourself, why'd they choose those particular angles, those particular shots? They could have chosen any of them. If you wanted to, you could go through that video and you could snatch video to make it look calm and cool and collected. You could find video where people were just sitting there drinking water, were being friendly, and you could say, see there, it was perfectly friendly. You could paint this any way you want it by selectively, you know, just like when you make a movie or you do some you know, a documentary or something. You film all of this film and then you go through and edit and you cut the things you want. You put other things in, right, to create the narrative that you're creating. And that's the way I see it, like a documentary. Whether or not anything was or wasn't organic, they chose selective pieces of film to create a particular narrative. And the narrative was these people were trying to overthrow the government. I think, were there people there that would have wanted to if they could? Certainly. They had no plan. These were a bunch of schmucks wandering through you know, kind of idiots.
Ropes too.
These were people who were so well trained by American propaganda that yes, they walked through the velvet ropes. They're taking selfies with the security guards. Do
you guys think that you could leave the Senate chamber anytime soon? It's
our sacred space.
Yeah, it's not like, down, get down, they're shooting, they're firing everybody. No, hey, dude, yeah, look, would you mind leaving? I don't know.
and look, man, I can't stress this enough. Like, I can only speak to what I saw and from where I was and the angles that I had. And I've been trying to get together with a number of other independent journalists that were on the ground there, several of whom are friends, so it helps. But on the plane back, it was loaded with people who had attended the rally, and all that they had were their experiences versus what they saw on the news. And so when I was talking to them on the plane, they had felt like they had been used, like they were basically set dressing. They were all to a person. They're like, fuck Trump, fuck Mitch McConnell, fuck the Republican Party. We got thrown under the bus. We did blah blah blah. Like they were starting to see that the whole system itself wasn't even designed for them as, like, I don't know, whatever's left of middle class white America. Like the realization that if they could be used as pawns and puppets, then it's probably really happening to everybody else, was starting to sink in on that plane ride. Whether or not that stuck, I can't speak to. But there was a guy on the plane right behind me who was Oath Keepers, and whether or not he was actually legit or if he was part of in the infiltration or whatever, I don't know. His tattoos were real. But he was trying to tell me that that they had an in with a couple of secretaries of state, and they were supposed to be here, and then about a day later that narrative started coming out in the media. And it was weird to hear that on the plane ride the following day. And I don't know. That part of the story where, like, the Georgia Secretary of State and governor had some part to play in it, that sort of fizzled and died on the vine pretty quick.
Yeah, a lot of stuff did, because here's the thing about it. This stuff runs contradictory to impeachment, you know? Okay, if you're saying Donald Trump, on January 6th, very specifically, Donald Trump incited this, Donald Trump caused this to happen. If not for Donald Trump, there would have been no violence, there would have been nothing, right? That's it. This is the guy. He's the one that did it, right? Okay, but then you say, but they've been planning this for a week, and they've been, well, wait a minute. Yeah, we've got evidence that people were planning to bring knives and guns and violence. Well, wait a minute. Those two things can't both be true. You're arguing that on January 6th, Donald Trump incited that, and as a result of his words on January 6th, it happened. However, on January 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, people were planning to do exactly that. Well, then you're arguing that Donald Trump wasn't responsible on January 6th. So they're playing with these narratives, some that are contradictory. Hoping that we can just throw whatever the hell we want out there. We can say it over and over again. And what the hell? They already know Donald Trump ain't going to get convicted anyway. So this is just a show trial. But they put out literally contradictory arguments that absolutely cancel each other out. He's responsible for what he said very specifically on January 6th. But we got evidence that other people did. So they're just all over the place with this. They're just playing games with it. This is what narrative do we need to put forward next? Oh, I don't know. Let's just say that, whatever. We know they need to keep troops around the Capitol because that makes things look pretty scary. I mean, the idea, it's obvious by now. It is obvious. They had troops around the Capitol, like all over the capitals, all over the country. Nothing happened. Like a couple instances, a couple of like reporters walked up to the troops. So nothing happened all over the country. Nothing happened January 6th, but they still got the troops there. They still got barbed wire there. Why when there's no threat? Well, obviously it's for propaganda purposes. So all this crap now we're dealing with, it's just propaganda purposes. Meanwhile, here's the other distraction. People are still like getting evicted, need food lines. There's economic problems from the pandemic. So people are like, hey, what are you going to do? You said that if you got all the power, you do things to address the pandemic. What are you going to do to address the pandemic? And they're like, look over there, it's Trump. And wait a minute, Putin. And then we mentioned China's over there too. You know what I mean? Just look away from us. There's lots of things over here you need to be looking at.
But don't worry, because we're going to get you those $900, $1,400, $2,000 checks any month now. Wait, not now because we're going on vacation. But when we get back, we're going to re-impeach Trump. And are they really like?
Yeah, you just got to do some simple math. Simple math, multiply it by 6, carry the 2, find the derivative of that, and then integrate that, add that to the context, and then boom, you got $2,000.
We put Arthur Anderson's best on the math on this relief bill. That's an Enron joke for the people in the audience who weren't around in 2003 for all of that.
Or your co-host.
Apologize. Huh?
Or your, co-host.
I was
Or
alive.
for those who may have been 3 in
I was alive in 2003.
That was wild, man, because I was at the Maryland Renaissance Festival in Annapolis. I was working for a lovely human being named Joe Victor, who makes hand-turned wooden mugs and goblets out of sustainable exotic weather. Actually, it's incredible stuff. He was a luthier for Santa Cruz Guitar Company way back in the day, like just a fantastic artist. And a buddy of mine, the guy who basically like kidnapped me and got me on the road in the first place, grew up in Upper Marlboro, and his friend was one of the lead bartenders at McCormick and Schmick's. And when the whole Enron thing was going down, Arthur Anderson's lead accountant went into McCormick and Schmick's and just kind of pointed at a bottle of vodka. And they gave it to him, and he drank it, and then went up to his office and ended his life. And that's the kind of like that's the only person who paid a price for that, for the entire Enron scandal, because Ken Lay got what, 18 months in Club Fed or something, and a pardon, if I'm not mistaken.
I don't remember.
That's just my point to all of this shit is we still haven't addressed 99% of the atrocities that have been done to us at the beginning part of this century, let alone each brand new one heaped on top of us almost daily now in the last year or so. And I'm really thankful, I guess, for shows like yours, for the work that a lot of our friends are doing, because it makes people slow down, makes people pull back a little bit, and really kind of have to process not just what's happening in real time, but what led up to it to allow this to happen. So while we still have an internet, and radio, I really am thankful for the work that you guys do, especially the show with Dr. Wilmer Leon, the Critical Hour. Like, if you guys aren't listening to that show, by the way, you really should, because they've got incredible guests that aren't me. But like our good friend Tedros Fikra, I would love to talk to Caleb Maupin one of these times about what his vision of Western socialism looks like. Has he explained any of that to you? Do you have a concept?
Oh, yeah.
That?
Sure. Yeah. We just watch, if people go to Caleb Maupin's YouTube, he talks a lot about that. And he has a great historical perspective. I've learned a lot from watching Caleb's stuff. So he's brilliant. There's a lot of good people. And that's the thing. It's out there. The problem that the machine has, that the empire has, is that there's stuff out there that they don't want to be out there. They want to control it. So they're afraid right now. They're feeling that their ideology is failing and brittle, and they don't want to let go of it because they're making so much money and they're living so well off of it. And they're doing, it's watching the empire start to really crack down on dissent is a sign that the empire is really afraid, and it's real trouble. It's in real deep trouble, because you don't have to crack down on dissent unless you're afraid of that dissent, unless you realize what's going on. So it's a bad sign. We don't want dissent to be stopped, but in a way, in a paradoxical kind of way, it's a sign that the empire is folding, the empire is fumbling, and they got to hold off. They're at war with the truth. That's what's going on with Assange. It's a war with the truth with accuracy, to say we want to be able to say what we want to say about a particular country. We want our citizens to believe it. We don't care if the rest of the world knows it's a lie. As long as our citizens believe it, we're still in control.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's I don't know. I do feel a little bit encouraged since September, since the witness hearings, in terms of international support around Julian Assange and around the broader movement to keep investigative journalism legal, I guess, is what it really comes down to, because the U.S. made it clear that they're going after international jurisdiction of the press and the criminalization, not just of publication of classified material, but of receiving it or sharing it. And this is something that when they dangle the Computer Fraud and Abuse Act as the charge that criminalizes source protection, this is the part that I feel like we as independent media should be jumping on and hammering on and waving in the face of everybody else that's involved in any way, shape, or form in media, because the CFAA in and of itself is farcical. The reason it came into existence is because Congress watched a movie, thought it was real, and went and passed legislation about it. And I'm not joking. That's right. Like, they cite war games in the legislation. I'm almost positive it's written into the legislation. I know around the time of the signing of the bill and the debate over it, war games, the movie. Okay, I can't stress that enough. The movie was the entire impetus of this legislation, and it's now being used to criminalize source protection. Garland, are there conversations about this happening in like more respectable media circles where they won't let me and Glory hang out?
No. Not really. I mean, you know, what you're saying is the same as the Magnitsky Act. You know, the Magnitsky Act, Bill Browder walks into Congress with his, you know, his cohorts, and he gives a story that's completely false. That's provably easily debunked. I mean, he comes and says, Sergei Magnitsky is my lawyer. Well, when the guy's put under, when Bill Browder is put under oath, and he's asked, was Sergei Magnitsky, is he a lawyer? He says, he's my lawyer. He says, did he ever go to law school? No. Does he have a law certificate? No. Passed the bar exam? No. But he's a lawyer? And Bill's like, yeah, he's my lawyer. Well, he went in front of Congress and said he was a lawyer. You would have think that someone would have tried to figure out whether or not his entire story is you don't even have to debunk it. It's a joke, right? But what do? They went out and they passed the Magnitsky Act to memorialize Sergei Magnitsky, a guy who was an accountant who went to jail for being a criminal accountant along with Bill Browder. And once he went to jail, then Bill Browder turned him into a lawyer and came up with an easily debunked story. I mean, his family says, oh no, he wasn't a lawyer. The people that worked with him are on tape at Firestone and Duncan, like, oh no, he was a lawyer. He was an accountant. It's but the U.S. has legislation based on the fact that Sergei Magnitsky is a lawyer and he's an accountant. So it would probably be shocking if we were to look into U.S. legislation. I mean, in an empire, everything is built on a foundation of lies. We would probably, if we looked at about 70% of the legislation out there, we'd probably find that it was based on a bunch of lies. Well, think about this. Our economic legislation, every time we do some more deregulating or some gigantic tax cuts, and we say, well, these tax cuts for the rich will pay for themselves. Well, historically, we know every single time beyond a reasonable doubt to a moral certainty that they will not pay for themselves. So we put out legislation after legislation based on absolute lies that are provably false. So why should this be any different?
Yeah, I mean, it's like, I know he's not in the administration anymore, but he shouldn't be able to live this down. The fact that Mike Pompeo can literally get up on stage and say, I was the director of the CIA. We lied, we cheated, we stole. We had whole training courses dedicated to that because it reminds you of the glory of the American experiment. You know, former Secretary of State and director of the CIA, right there.
And then afterwards, people will say, can you believe that Donald Trump didn't believe his own intelligence services? That's what killed me. And I'm like, are you saying that you believe him? So they say to you, don't believe me, I lie. I mean, it's just what I do. That's all I do is I lie. Don't believe a word out of my mouth. And then they're going to say, can you believe he doesn't trust that guy? I had somebody say to me recently, Garland, in order for you, for what you're saying to be true, that would mean the FBI, the CIA, and whatever, NSA are all wrong. Is that what you're saying? I'm like, that's an easy one, dude.
How dare you disrespect the integrity of our intelligence sources and our clandestine services?
Right. I'm like, did you learn anything from weapons of mass destruction? Anything? No. In fact, the intelligence community learned from weapons of mass destruction. No matter how absurd a lie we come up with, no matter how preposterous it is, all we got to do is keep repeating it over and over again, and these schmucks will believe it.
Incubator babies.
Yeah.
We were talking about this last night on Anonymous Bites Back. John Kiriakou, and I'm sure he's told you the same story, Garland, was an employee of the CIA. While that was happening, they're watching it in the office going, isn't that Hamzi's kid? Or like whatever is that? I probably fucking his name up. But yeah, the ambassador's daughter delivering this story that became one of the legitimate reasons for us getting involved in Iraq in the first place in the 90s.
Yeah, and what's important about that? That should be at least common knowledge that someone can lie to you, that it can come out that they lied to you, that it can come out that they were lying to you before. So now you find that this person has a history of lying to you about very important things. And then people will still look at me and say, are you telling me that you think those people who have lied to us about every war that we get into, they lied? Everything that they do, they come out, the ex-chief comes out and says, hey, I was there. What'd you do? We lied, man. We stole, we lied. That's what we did. And people can still look at me and say, are you trying to say that these people are lying? No, they're trying to say that they're lying. I'm just accepting their premise.
So you're telling me that you don't believe the Mueller report?
That was hilarious. The Mueller report
I mean,
was really hilarious.
This is why I keep saying that we live in a fucking cartoon, because that's what it takes in order to believe this reality. We're proven, admitted, demonstrable liars come out and tell you what reality is, and put you in the position to where you either accept their falsehoods on faith, or you question them and immediately get ostracized. And that's where we're at, is fear of, how can you be afraid of being ostracized when nobody can leave the house? How can you be afraid of being ostracized when we're not allowed to gather publicly anymore? We can't even meet at a bar so your friends can clown you for your ridiculous opinion. So go ahead and have that ridiculous opinion, for fuck's sake, because we need, at this point, man, I'll take diversity of thought, no matter how absurd, over uniformity.
Yeah. Yeah. And here's the thing about it. There's a great book, I love to read. I'm a reader. And there's a great book called The Confidence Game, Why We Fall for It Every Time. And it's about a con artist. The confidence game is a confidence artist is a con artist, right? And it's all about that. But basically, this is what they get into. And this is why this stuff works. And I used to be a salesperson at one point. I did sales for a couple of years. If I know what you're afraid of, if I know what you like, if I know what you don't like, if I know what you believe, I got you. Right? All I got to do is activate your emotions. So if I know that you don't want to believe that Donald Trump won, that you don't want to ever believe that Americans would vote for a guy like Donald Trump, I know that, right? All I got to do is feed you whatever I want that aligns with that. Hey, Donald Trump couldn't possibly have won, could he? No, he couldn't. Well, let me tell you, let me give you some alternative possibilities that you're all ready for. Oh, good, goody, good. What are they, sir? Well, would you believe Russia? Good enough. I believe it, but I haven't even told you what it is yet. It doesn't matter. As long as it solidifies the belief that I have that Donald Trump couldn't have possibly won an American election, you give it to me. Okay, sure. Russia did some Facebook memes. I believe it. Good enough. Let's roll with that. And that's what it is. So they know, they look at it and they're like, well, we've always lied to them. We've admitted that we lied to them. There's no reason they should believe us. But they don't like this guy, Trump. Let's feed him a bunch of crap and see if it works. Okay, good enough. Let's give them. And once they see it's working, once you got the fish on a hook, just keep reeling. And that's it. Let's throw some more stuff. Oh, yeah, the Russians, yeah, whatever. I don't know. They're hacking your phone. They're going to turn your heat off during the polar vortex. I don't know, whatever. Let's throw it at them and see if these idiots believe it. And as long as they keep believing it, and that's the confidence game. When they realize there's something that you want or don't want, you're afraid of, something you don't want to admit, all they have to do is feed you their propaganda in a way that aligns with that emotional inclination that you already have, and you're quite naturally going to believe it. That's it.
And the flip side to that sucks is that nobody wants to admit that they've been taken for a sucker.
Which is the other part of, that's why this book is great to read, that the confidence game, because what they talk about is, and true instances of people, some guy cons Garland and takes all of his money. And then the cops come and they say, Garland, Steve was a con man, you've been had. And Garland says, oh, no, no, no. I actually stand up for a good con artist, will con you out of everything. And then you will actually, the victim, the mark, will actually stand up and defend the con artist. No, Steve, he's a wonderful guy. He couldn't possibly have taken all of my money and ran off to another country. Where's Steve right now? Well, he's in another country, but that's not important now. You know what I mean? So
well, he's in Belize on the island of cocaine, but I mean,
right. So when you set a good con up, even after it becomes blatantly obvious that the person has been conned, they're embarrassed to admit that they've been conned, and they're emotionally invested in the con. So they got to continue to run with it when the con artist has walked the right way and he's still laughing. So it doesn't matter to these people. They throw them something new. Once you realize you got a sucker, you keep using the sucker. As P.T. Barnum said, it's a crime against God and nature to allow a sucker to keep his money.
Yeah. Bernie Sanders supporters who got cheated out of their minds twice and then turned around and proceeded to sheepdog on behalf of every Democrat, because they'll still defend Bernie as long as he says Medicare for all every 6 months. It's incredible, because these were the same people who said, oh, I'm not voting for anyone unless if they're for Medicare for all. All of a sudden, they're throwing their money at these Georgia Senate runoff races based off the fact that we can get guaranteed 2K checks if the Democrats win in Georgia. Yeah, how's that working out for us?
Yeah, and the Democrats, and it's to a point where they don't even care anymore. You know, they ain't even bothering. Hey, you lied to them. They're back to, I knew a guy who was in the Clinton White House, and he said they would literally say when they talked about the left, where else they going to go? Or black people, well, where else they going to go? We ain't giving them nothing, but where else they're going to go? That's the game they play. Hey, we told them 2,000. You think they'll get mad? What are they going to do? Where else they're going to go? No, we'll give them nothing, and that'll be good enough for them. Too good for them, in fact. But who cares? They got nowhere else to go. It is effectively right now a one-party state. And that party is not blue or red. That party includes Silicon Valley. That party includes Wall Street. That includes the military-industrial complex. It includes the national and international security state. It's a one-party state, but it ain't blue or red. It is not the party that people think it is. That's one party who is fighting for the empire and for the oligarchs, and they got to try to play with like maybe abortion or something like that, LGBT rights or something. They'll play with that stuff around the edges. They don't really mean it. All this crap about kneeling with kente cloths or whatever during the George Floyd riots. Let me ask you this. Has Congress put out one piece of legislation regarding the George Floyd riots or anything? Nothing. Did they? Oh, we've got to. No. You know what they did? They did nothing, and then they blamed it on the Republicans. And when they came to power, as they are now, are they saying, well, now that we got power, we're going to do something with criminal justice reform? Or no, they're not. They're not. It was just something for them to use at the time to paint a bunch of big letters, black letters on Black Lives Matter Plaza or whatever in front of the White House. And that was it. You're going to get something symbolic. That's all you're getting. Symbolism.
Here in Santa Cruz, California, where there are 7 black people, like total, I'm barely exaggerating, and that sucks, dude. But I mean, it just broadly, it's a probably a majority Latino community here, and the mayor had Black Lives Matter painted on the street right in front of the courthouse. He ran on fair and affordable housing. He ran on a number of other issues, but we got Black Lives Matter on the street. So you know, yay, good for us. There, have you read American Gods by Neil Gaiman?
No, I've got the book right over there. I have the book right there, and I haven't read it.
There's a at the beginning of every chapter, a random quote, and one of them, it comes from supposedly Canada Bill Jones, who was getting just robbed blind in a rigged game of Pharaoh. And it's pointed out to him, hey, man, you know you're getting cheated, right? And he goes, yeah, I know, but it's the only game in town.
Yeah, and that's the game, man. That is the game. That's the idea of, you know, no matter who you vote for, you get John McCain. I mean, look at the people they've set up. How much difference really, in hindsight, between Clinton and Dole, between Bush and between Gore and Bush W.
Yeah.
In hindsight, between John McCain and Obama, you know, there was a difference between Hillary and Trump. Trump was something different because he wasn't a product of that particular machine. He was a product of a different faction of the oligarchy. That's all. What we keep seeing, you know, what's funny? We keep seeing factions of the ruling elite fighting amongst each other, and that is interpreted to us as though one of those factions is fighting for us. Now, that faction of the ruling elite is bad. Now, we are fighting for you. The other faction of the ruling elite, they're fighting for evil in the ruling elite. And that's all this is 90% of the time. And there's nobody there for us. It's absurd. And I'll add about this saying this. Because like the QAnon people who thought that there was somebody on the inside of the Trump people working for them, the Mueller lovers who thought somehow Mueller, a guy product of the system, was going to do something for them. Anyone who thinks there's someone in this empire who's looking out for the working class is delusional. So when they were taught, the resistance was taught, Mueller's your guy. They had like prayer candles with Mueller's picture on them. They were singing Mueller hymns and Christmas carols on Saturday Night Live. They were trained that there is somebody within this system that is going to be the Messiah to save you from the evil of the system. The same with the poor QAnon schmucks. There's somebody, anonymous person in there who's going to, anytime you think there's somebody in this empire who's working on your behalf, you have been completely had. There is nobody in that empire who's working on your behalf. If so, they'd be tossed out of the empire. They'd be JFK'd. They'd be Julian Assange. They'd be something like that.
Yeah. I mean, so in LA, there's like this fashion building that has Black Lives Matter displayed on the top of it, and right next to that building is Garcetti's house, where right outside Garcetti's house, police beat the shit out of a bunch of protesters. So that's kind of where Democrats are at in terms of purely symbolics and tokenization, and it's absolutely disgusting having to deal with that, because then you also have to deal with their bootlickers that will keep buying that bull crap. And it's so annoying to think that after so long, people still are willing to buy into the empire because they have hope of something like, oh, Medicare for all, we can get this. How does healthcare feel if it's going to be funded by something like diamond mines in the Congo or oil from Venezuela and Syria? Because that's where most of the money for this is coming from. It's going to be built on top of an imperialist system. And I'm not willing to buy into that, because not only would I be throwing like 90% of the globe under the bus, But I also probably wouldn't get health care either. So it's asinine that people keep buying into this based off the pure hope of something. It's like you can find hope in other avenues besides electoral politics, but people are somehow just completely sheepdogged into the system. And part of that falls on co-opted organizations like Black Lives Matter, who campaigned for Joe Biden and donated to Act Blue for so long, only to not even be invited to Biden's Zoom meetings with civil rights leaders. It's like, I don't want them to be sad, but we told you so. We told you this was going to happen. Stop acting like this is anything new.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you 100%. Well, I got to get running, gang. I certainly appreciate the time here, and hopefully, you guys will have time. Invite me back soon sometimes. I'd love to come back on. I certainly really support what you're doing and the hard work that you've been putting in getting the message out about Julian Assange.
Really appreciate it, Garland. And you guys, again, if you're not, please, go follow Garland on Twitter. Listen to the Critical Hour news views on WPFW.
WPFW. I've got my I've got a YouTube Garland Nixon. I've got my YouTube show, so make sure you follow me and subscribe to my YouTube channel.
And turn on post notifications because he's hella shadow banned. Like I didn't see his tweets on Twitter at all until I turned on the notifications for them. So
all right, you guys. Well, Garland, all you got to do is close out of the tab.
All right, thank you very much. Great to meet everyone, and follow me at Garland Nixon on Twitter, Garland Nixon on Facebook. And don't forget my YouTube show. Peace. Thanks a lot, guys. I support you. Talk to you. We'll be talking to you soon on over at the Critical Hour, Steve.
Heck yeah. I look forward to it. Man, I love talking to Garland Nixon. I do. One of my
metaphors.
Favorite people to talk to. Yeah. Yeah, dude. Where did it go? Somebody found it almost.
Yes. Big shout out, Star.
Oh yeah, and Star was right away. That clip's already up on Star's YouTube channel. We'll probably put it out too. I don't see why we wouldn't. God damn it, where did that go? Somebody had already dropped on Twitter. There it is. This guy. Let's get it up on the screen. I'll put it in its own.
What are you about to show?
We're doing it live. There we go. There was already a meme that described exactly what Garland was laying out there. Oh, wow. Jesus.
Yes, those were the things. I loved those little wheels.
Yeah.
That's funny.
Fisher Price toys, little tykes, those were my shit, bruh. Used to fucking ram into people with that.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah. There's your political system. What you got, Glory?
Trying to think. I'm trying to think if I have anything coming up. That's what I'm trying to think. I don't.
Really?
Wait, okay.
Were you like
okay?
Gonna promote something if you had it?
No. Okay.
You gotta put that shit in Element beforehand that like you're planning on, because I don't know how to react. Wow.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thanks for what?
I don't know. I mean,
I'm trying to put more thought into my damn promos.
That's what I'm thanking you for.
You suck. Yeah, you suck at it. You're a shitty example, so I'm trying to be better. Okay. As of now, I don't have anything. Like, I'm not going to be on anybody's show. As of now, subject to change. I'm not scheduled to be on anybody's show. Okay, but I was with the fams on Friday.
That was a good show. Highly recommend
combo. That was hella fun because it's always a fun time with the fam. So everybody,
Oh, do you
check
have your
that
fam
stream
shirt
out
on?
if you feel so inclined, because we talked about some stuff with Amazon. We talked about, we did some quality shit talk on the left and refusing to reach out to people. And we also talked about the elections audit happening in Arizona. The people are raising hell to try and get an actual audit for the election, and I am all here for it. So that is yeah, that's the only thing I can think of in terms of like recently that I was on. Okay. Okay. I'll get less awkward with the promos and stuff as we go on, but
I haven't.
Mm-hmm. I had to hype man a
haven't.
little bit.
I a little bit.
I want to think I'm gonna get better, because like it's not like I don't care if I miss something about me. It's the show I'm going on. Like, I want them to get some love. So like, yeah.
We gotta get a fucking calendar up or something.
We do a Scoop Gang calendar.
We need to wrangle that whole crew together and sit down and have a
conversation,
planning session. Yeah.
Sundays are for slow news day. And Attack on Titan, but just
and we'll be back at 3 Pacific, 6 on the East Coast with Johnny Axum. That'll be fun, because as much as we do agree on, Johnny has very, very strong views on social media control of information.
Oh.
So
wow. This will be my first stream with him, so this will be interesting then.
He's cool. I like the guy.
Yeah.
I'm sure he is.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's tons of shit that we see eye to eye on. This particular thing, the reason I invited him on the show is I randomly caught a Twitter post of his, which I don't, because he's another one of the guys that shadow banned to fuck. They gave him a blue check because he was running for office. And even still, like, Ian Schlackman has a blue check too, which is fucking hilarious. Is fucking just so funny to me.
Hype man with the blue check.
But you're right.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Hey, bro, I just want a blue check just so I can harass other blue checks. Like, that would be the only thing that would be in it for me.
You just get to see whether or not they comment. You get to see their comments in a separate section, like where it's, all your comments, your mentions, there's a separate section for the people that have verified accounts.
I don't care about that shit. I'm just saying, like, bro, imagine you're like, your standard blue check, like, I'm a blue check. I'm so greater than everyone. And then, like, you say some dumb shit about Assange, like AOC, and then I'm like, I take my little blue check and I'm like, hey, you want all those mentions to get filled up? And it's a fucking like blue check spam, and you can't like, they can't run. They won't have anywhere to go because I'll have the blue check.
Gloria's gonna take over the world. I know it.
Fair. Sure.
And Waylon will be waiting in the wings.
Right. We'll go run for office so you can get your blue check.
I don't want to, though.
Dude,
I'm only running for office if you're on the campaign team.
Run for office because your opponent will be forced to play clips of the show in order to try to discredit you.
And can you
that will be like the only way we actually publicize the show.
And she will be the first politician in history to ever give a speech with like 1,000 fucks and douches in it.
Bro, I'm saying I'm not censoring myself when I get into Congress.
Douche cunts!
Like, hey, bro, I remember that one time where like AOC did this whole ass, like huge ass speech thing, and everybody was like, oh my God, I feel so proud of being a woman because of that. But like, I remember when she did that because she gave the speech about like someone, I think it was like a Florida dude, Ted Yoho, called her a fucking bitch or something. I'm like, hey, bro, I fucking wish I was AOC in that position, boy. Like,
Bitch, I'll show you, bitch. Yeah.
like, Ayo, Ted, that would be my speech. Like, Ayo, Ted, we work in the same building. Keep that energy.
They're so not letting you near office.
See, I know this is why I couldn't get it. This is why I couldn't get into office.
No, this is only for the blue check, just so you control other blue checks. We're not trying to like.
But like, if I actually did make it into office, because like, as low of an opinion I have of myself, I have an even lower opinion of like government officials. Like, like even if I did get into office, because I could probably do a better job in Congress, then I would make a fucking mockery out of the whole thing. It's like that.
Here's hoping. You know, I mean, how could you look? How could you make more of a mockery out of Florida government than it does on its own?
I mean, to be fair, there's already a lot of mockery that happens at like the local level, but I'm talking about like Congress. Like showing.
Are we running you for Congress in 2022? Is that what we're doing?
This whole show is a front to announce my congressional campaign.
I don't really fuck around with congressional candidates, so like, I mean, I guess I'd have you on, but.
Dude, that's why I wouldn't run for office either. I'd rather fucking do the show than like, you know, fucking deal with election crap.
Kyle Kulinski would have you on in a heartbeat if you ran for office. If you ran for office, you would be like killing it at identity politics. Bingo. All you would have to say are a couple of the right progressive things, and all of the people that we've spent so much time making fun of would be like, hey, will you please come on the show?
See, Steve, there's just a slight problem with that. I'm not a fucking careerist.
For the lulz, would you do it for the lulz?
Do it for them.
You know what? One of these days, I do want to run a social experiment to see what happened if I just like fucking like surrendered my soul and became like one of these progressive mouthpieces. Like it would be so fucking easy to. Like,
do it. Do you know the lulz and do it wearing one of these? Like Glory Jones, that's your whole fucking campaign. Glory Jones for the lulz. And just sit there, like, I mean, straight up, dude, like, empty suit as fuck, but with the hair and the mask, and that's your campaign. Saying the exactly the just banal, everyone's been saying this for 70 years, progressive bullshit.
I'm not taking corporate PAC. I'm not taking corporate PAC money. Medicare for all, Green New Deal. We need a $15 minimum wage.
You'd probably get more. You probably get more votes with
that is ran by the people, not a system that works against the people.
We need to make the Democratic Party the party of labor again.
And I am going to do something about these forever wars.
Yes.
We are going to put the hands of the country back on Main Street, not Wall Street. Like,
it would be so fucking easy. It really would be. Instead, no. Like myself wouldn't let myself do that. Like maybe for a funny, like, 5-day long social experiment, I'd see what happened if I turned into like, standard progressive blue check account. But like if I ran for office, I would do that shit like Glory. Like I wouldn't run as like blue check progressive. I would run as Glory.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't win.
Makes it a lot less funny.
I mean, it does, but it would be
the
fun.
only way I would get involved with a campaign is as a bit.
That's fair.
Yeah, if somebody, because this does happen, dude, and it's happened all the fuck. It used to happen all the time. Please come work for my campaign. Please, will you come to blah blah blah? Strategy. There's a no. I'm sorry, but
only run for the lulz. I like it.
You're a decent human being. You're going to get crushed. I'm not going to be a part of this. You can't even pay me. Like no, I'm not. But yeah, as a bit, yeah, for sure. And I can think of a number of other people that would probably like, hey, I'll fuck it, dude. I'll throw a couple hours a week at a fucking fake ass campaign. Sure. Do you want to troll the Florida state legislature? I'm down. Like sure. I mean, you're talking like Congress. You're talking like
I mean like bro. I mean like Congress because like I wanna have
the sheepdog for Glory. That's
I want to have an in-person conversation with Marco Rubio. I do.
Yeah, that's never gonna happen.
I know. But it would be more likely to happen.
Well, that's why you would do the fake campaign.
Yeah, if I scammed my way into Capitol and just went full like mask off, I would be like,
leave that mask on. Leave the non-mask on. Really freak them out.
I would leave the non-mask on for sure. But just like imagine.
I'm gonna put a poll up on Twitter. If you would like to see Glory Jones run a satirical campaign, let us know.
These fucks are all gonna vote yes. It's like, bro,
and let us know by buying Glory Bitcoin.
Hey, bro, like I'm saying, like I'm black.
I don't know, man.
Like, listen, I'm like perfect for these fucks because like I'm young, I'm a woman, I'm black but not too dark because I'm still half white. So it's like I'm perfect for these fucks. I could be president of Gen Z, leading youth progressive thinker.
Oh my god,
man! I'm half eat that shit now. Up.
I'm seriously. I'm half sold. I am.
I'm kind of. I'm sort of down.
Right? I'm not over the edge yet, but
yeah, me neither. That would take like.
Do we really cuss less when Garland's on?
Yeah, 100%.
I mean, I still cussed, but I mean, I know I did less.
You said bullcrap instead of bullshit.
I did say bullshit too, though.
Oh. I'm just saying, like you two curse less when Garland's on.
I mean, I also curse less when like Reverend Danny's on. Depends on the guest, really.
I do want to, for comedic effect, I do want to do a show entirely fucking like PG.
Oh my god, no.
What if we just take that completely over the edge and do like a fucking like Kyle Kulinski style show where we play like a mainstream media clip and then say what's wrong with it with like our little like suits and like pseudo intellectual hairstyles.
I'm down to do like one show where we just show everybody how lazy and easy it is to be
so
a progressive YouTube fucking quasi celebrity. And like I'm okay with being like a Z list. You know, like Z list.
I'm okay being like a negative A-list star.
Right? Like I'm cool with that. That's the I'd like to keep it that way, but I also wouldn't. I don't know, dude. It's fucking weird. As long as I never have to pose for pictures at the airport, I would love to expand the size and reach of the show. I guess that's where I'm
just for like April Fools, we do like an entire show just reviewing like an AOC tweet.
Yeah. Some shit. Yeah.
Yeah, bro.
I'm not gonna
straighten my hair for that.
I'm not gonna shave my head for that.
And I'm not gonna straighten my hair for that.
Dude,
either.
it
takes too fucking long, y'all. And I am like,
can you get a straight hair? Like, can you wig that shit back? Is that possible?
You want me to fit all this within a wig?
Yeah, it ain't gonna happen.
I mean, I don't know, dude. We'll figure it out.
They would have to make the braids in my head so fucking tight. I would have a headache throughout the whole show.
I meant like I'm not going to try like pressure or subject you to the same shit we made Andrew do when he was Jimmy Dore for that Halloween show.
I mean, you can for the laughs, but I won't do it.
I'm not. I mean, when I cut my hair, it'll be because it's long enough to give some the healthy shit 2 locks of love, but not until then.
Yeah, I still cut my hair. I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, well, we also don't see your face, Josh.
It's true.
Yeah, and I don't own clippers, and I don't think they make a razor strong enough to hack through that shit.
Oh, I'm not shaving.
Fucking fully armed wombat up under my chin. Like I'll do a lot for a bit, but you know. At any rate, we'll be back at 3.
You can do a man bun.
Oh God! Oh my God! That would work for the April Fool's one. 100%. A messy man bun, dude. Make it even more woke.
All right. Deal.
We've been fucking chatting shit.
Deal. I'll even find like fucking Southeast Asian handmade shirt or something. Fucking.
Are you gonna don skinny jeans that day for full effect?
No.
Upper half only.
I like
Josh.
all my bits and pieces where they are and
right.
Fuck a bunch of skinny jeans, man. This shit.
No,
I just
thanks.
Sick like, fuck design those head. Like, hey, here, buddy,
jeans?
tuck it back if you can. But
okay, so me personally, like, okay, I might be a little biased given the fact that like I grew up in such a hot place like Florida, but like, like jeans, pants, tights, they're all kind of overrated.
Yeah, fuck pants.
Fuck pants.
Like if you're just like, around your home and stuff, like shorts, underwear, spandex, like that's fucking awesome. And that's the way to go. Like
Yeah. Just say no to skinny jeans, boys and girls.
Yeah, guys, it's not worth it.
Ugh. Dude, makes my balls hurt thinking about it.
Just fucking thinking about it.
I'm good.
Like, I don't know if you guys noticed or not, but I like repositioned myself a couple of times because it fucking hurts. Just the mere thought. Fucking poor lads. Why?
Oh, you poor fucking men.
Why would you do that?
As many things that I dislike, I blame fucking hipsters.
They drove up. They managed to ruin
Pabst. They made it expensive.
They managed to ruin Pabst. They managed to ruin microbrews. A while
beards.
they were trying to ruin beards. For a while they were trying to like. There was this thing where like if you were a hipster, you had to dress like you were a lumberjack.
Oh Jesus!
I
remember
lived
that.
in the Santa Cruz Mountains, where like the state flag is the flannel shirt, and so fucking when we would come, off the mountain and like into Santa Cruz, there would be all of these fucking people who were playing dress up like lumberjack. And it was obvious that the heaviest thing they'd ever picked up in their entire life was a fifth. And it's I don't know, dude. I find it I don't know how you could buy your lifestyle off of a fucking clothing rack. Like I don't know how that works.
All right, so redneck economics
I have no sense
has
of
your
fashion
outfit.
whatsoever. So,
Dude,
You what?
redneck economics has your April 1st thing. It's man bun, scarf, ironic T-shirt.
Scarf?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Oh no, I all right. Yeah.
The T-shirt is key.
You got wait, what day is that?
oh my God, Steve!
I should know.
Steve and a dashiki.
So my brother.
Oh no!
My brother, may he rest in peace. Would fuck with me because I would drink Pabst Blue Ribbon, not because it was hipster beer, but because I was broke, and for a while it was cheap until those fucks drove the price up. So there was a running joke that he would concede that Pabst Blue Ribbon was beer if I would concede that that Kwanzaa was in fact a centuries old Christmas. And that eventually when we came to this understanding as siblings, we would sit round the Pabst Blue Ribbon tree in our Kwanzaa daishikis.
Oh my God.
Oh my God!
So yeah. I'm probably not going to wear a daishiki, but I would. The fuck of it.
A man bun and an ironic shirt would be enough.
Yeah. I feel like a daishiki's overdoing it a little bit, although they look comfortable. I'd be like really, my costume decisions are comfortability based, not really anything else. When I was we had him on. I'll get him on again. Rook, my buddy, that I used to work at the Renaissance Festival with. There was a year where we did like several costume changes in a day, and one of them was Batman and Robin. And
oh my God, the tights story.
Pictures,
I remember
or
this
did
one.
it happen?
Oh, I don't want to see that shit.
the only picture
Tell us
I have
religion
of
and
it,
shit. I'm good.
I think the only picture I have, we're both standing behind the cab, and you can't really tell.
Everyone else could though. Oh my God, that'd be hilarious though. To be honest,
That was an experience.
I hope you at least had a buzz.
Oh, yes. Yeah, no, this was one of the. I mean, when Rook came at me at like 8:00 in the morning with, okay, dude, our first costume for the day is going to be pregnant nuns, but we need to wait. We got to go get some cigars first. And I'm like,
what?
I'm going to need a little bit more context because that's literally the first thing you've said to me today.
Fun times.
and it went from there. But we walked up with a bottle of scotch.
Fun times.
Yeah. We probably. It's a good thing that we didn't have to operate heavy machinery or motor vehicles. Although we were responsible, and we were the literal human transportation for
That's right.
people. Yeah. So
Hammered,
and
dude.
they're like buying us alcohol, like, hey, dude, who is literally holding up this, oak and iron fucking cart on a hot day in a costume. God. Can I get you drunk so that you could better do your job, so that you could be more entertaining while you and your buddy drag 2,200 pounds of cart and Minnesotan around up and down hills all day?
Oh man!
Bet you that goes great with a Bellini.
Oh my god!
It actually kind of does, because peach Bellinis are pretty refreshing, especially if they're like cold. But anyway, we'll be back at 3 with Johnny Axum.
What kind of fucking tangent was that?
So,
no, like not even you. Like the whole thing we went on that started with like me running for office that somehow
veered live on the fucking air
into Steve's Renaissance adventures again.
I'll clip out the Garland segment.
We might have to.
Okay. I feel like it's a little bit of a disservice to Garland at this point to include all of this. And he like legit is one of the most respectable people I know.
We're
sorry,
still fucking live.
Yeah. So we'll be back at 3 with Johnny Axum. Thank you for hanging out, for putting up with our tomfoolery. At least it's entertaining tomfoolery. I hope it's entertaining tomfoolery. I do. At any rate, man. Thank you guys. Love you. There were a couple of there was a super sticker earlier from Houstonic Live. Thank you very much.
We got some super rays.
Rockfin, we have some tips.
Super rays.
And who sent those super rays, Corey Jones?
Thank you, Stefan Stinkin, for the $5 super ray. It's always appreciated. And thank you, Cultus Damon. Tip $2, says Trump was a psyop. He was part of an entrenched ruling class operation. There is no serious division within the U.S. ruling class at this time. Caleb Maupin is wrong to think Trump represented a new money uprising.
Well, and that's one of the reasons that I would love to have a conversation with Caleb, because he's a clearly intelligent individual, and he's got a perspective that I'm not really hearing anywhere else, which I find incredibly interesting. And there are a number of things that I have questions about and take issue with in terms of his overall rhetoric. So I'm going to try and set that up.
Allison Mason is in the YouTube chat. Hi, Allison.
I love you, Allie. Hi.
Yeah,
you guys are awesome.
So is Eric really running that account? Who's running Eric's account? You don't have to, that's what I want to know, because I would like to know if I could occasionally slip in fucking jokes and memes. I don't want to offend anybody.
Oh, and big shout out to whoever is fuck YouTube on Rockfin in the Rockfin chat, because yes,
that's a great account.
YouTube.
Yeah, absolutely. And I agree, Cultus Damon, I do agree that Trump had to happen, that Trump would, in terms of the ironic thing about Q is that they made everybody trust the plan. And the plan was, we need Donald Trump in order to pacify the exact people who are trusting the plan on Q. and for there to be no like minimal pushback on lockdowns and warp speed and fucking just this entire period of accelerationism that we've been in since around 2015.
You will eat bugs.
You will
And
eat
you will
bugs,
like it.
and you will like it. Everything you use, you will rent. It will be delivered by drone. Drone. I kind of like I almost
Is that
want
really-
somebody. I almost want somebody to like superimpose Klaus Schwab's face on Andre the Giant.
Oh my god!
I thought you were gonna say yourself.
No, Jesus Christmas, no.
Ugh. That's normal.
Yo. We'll be back at 3.
Love y'all.
Good luck to us all.